Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gatesy. That's Duke. We are Forged from Iron. I am very pleased to have in the guest hot seat West Ham Online. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing very well.
Yeah, not a bad season we're having so far. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, we're having a really good season. I spoke the other day with I don't know if James Fever, and we were speaking about
Yeah,
the fact it could have been an even better season if the what's been creeping in at points in big games is this team selection, which seems to confuse me. The inclusion of Noble in the five at the back and the eight
mm,
defensive-minded players, if you like.
yeah.
If we weren't having that, it could have been even better. But well, we can't complain too much, can we?
No, I mean, sort of like the match at Old Trafford. I think it's fair to say was underwhelming, if I'm being very polite about it. But looking at
Mhm.
the bigger picture, was it? We're 28 games now we've played, and we're still in fifth. So, I mean, if you'd have offered that to me at the beginning of the season, 48 points and fifth place after 28 games, I'd have probably looked at you and said, "You're absolutely off your rocker." But here we
Mhm.
are. So yeah, it's all good, all good. Um,
Madness.
before we get down to it, I'm going to do my usual shout out to Isla's Army. For the benefit of you that don't know, Isla Caton is a 6-year-old girl who is currently fighting a battle against neuroblastoma. This is a really rare and aggressive form of cancer that particularly afflicts children. This is not treatable in this country on the NHS, ladies and gentlemen. Her family have got to put their entire life on pause, stop what they're doing, and cart this poor little girl wherever it is in the world to try and get her the treatment she needs to save her life. Very, very expensive, very, very stressful, but in the middle of a global pandemic, it's very, very far from ideal, to say the least. We're appealing that if any of you guys watching this have got any funds to put in the tin to try and save this little girl's life. And the clock is ticking, guys. So every day literally counts. You've got a PayPal page, you've got a Just Giving page. We ask you to dig deep, even if it's just £1, it will be accepted, and we thank you very much for it. But the more you can put in there, obviously better still. If you can't, because obviously I understand that times are tough. We're all struggling, obviously, with the pandemic at the minute. I appreciate that. The only thing I would say is if you can't put anything in the tin, could you please share this message far and wide to try and get the funds into the tin to try and save this poor little girl's life? And I thank you very much indeed for your attention. So let's get down to it. So this is the tier list, ladies and gentlemen. So we have 25 first team players, and there are 4 categories that each player can go into. So at the top, we have long-term players. So these are players that West Ham Online, if he was in the position of David Moyes in the summer, would look at and think, all things being equal, these are players that are going to be at the team 3 seasons and beyond. The next tier down is 1 or 2 seasons. So players that you look at and think might be coming to the end of their time at the club and lasting no longer than 2 seasons, maybe just 1 at best. Then the next column is not sure. So these are players that could go either way. They're sitting on a knife edge. And then the last section at the bottom, quite simple. See ya. Players that you're going to wave a cheery goodbye to out the door, never to dark and rush green again, hopefully. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, we're going to start alphabetically. The first player is Felipe Anderson.
For me, Anderson's in the senior column. I wasn't impressed at all with him last season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has the work ethic to be in a David Moyes side. Yes, at times he's shown flashes of quality, and believe me, in the 18-19 season, he was probably my favourite player. And do you remember those shouts where people were saying, "Oh, he's the best player outside the big six"?
Mm.
So at a time, I think it was December, he scored 4 goals. He was going for a really good period, and he looked like a Zaha level winger, if you like. But for me, Anderson just seems like a real confidence player, and he just doesn't have it a lot of the time. I think his positioning is woeful. Quite often, he's closer to Cresswell than he is to Antonio or Arnautovic at the time. So for me, he's got to be in the senior column. There's just nothing with him that I like at the moment.
No, I think that's where most people so far have put him. There's been the odd exception, but more often than not, I think this is exactly where most people have put him so far on the tier list. We move on. The next player alphabetically is Michail Antonio, who, as we recalled, I believe, has today pledged his international future to Jamaica.
Yeah. Antonio is a terrific striker for us at the moment, and his issue is he seems to miss quite a few big chances. However, I think at the moment he's good enough for us. I would look to replace him in the summer, not replace him fully. He's still going to be a good bench player for us, or could start the majority of games, but he definitely needs backup at the bare minimum. So I'd put him in the 1 or 2 seasons column.
Yeah, I think again that's where most people have put him. A, because of his age, and B, I think because of his obvious issues with his hamstrings. But moving on, we've got Fabian Balbuena.
This one, well, he's already said his agent has said he wants to leave, and he's going to leave. So I'm just going to put him in C. If it was up to me, I'd look to get him in the 1 or 2 seasons, but because he wants to go, I just want to see him go, if that makes sense.
I think once a player's articulated that they want to leave, then you're probably best just off cutting your losses because you're unlikely to turn them around. But I think, I agree with you in that, if you thought that he could be persuaded to stay, especially with a European campaign, hopefully on the horizon, I think he'd certainly be an asset for next season, if nothing else. But once he's turned around and said that he wants out, then I think you're probably just best to just cut your losses.
Well, we've kind of been bitten by that, haven't we, in the past? By trying to convince players to stay when they've not wanted to be there. You only have to look as recently as Arnautovic and Payet. We've tried to convince 2 players that pretty much expressed the desire to leave, albeit for 2 different reasons. One obviously wanted to go on and win trophies. It was his dream to win trophies in China. That worked out really well for him.
And the other one, see that.
The other one wanted to go home to France for, albeit personal reasons. So, we try to convince them both to stay. And for me, I just think, as you said there, Gatesy, if they want to go, get them gone, let them out the door. Kind of just even pack their bags for them to a degree, just because it's just not, it doesn't work. You saw the detrimental effects that Payet had on the team. Once he had come out and said that he wasn't going to play for the club until, so we might as well sell him. So massive detrimental effects. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to think we could use Balbuena as a squad padding for cups and hopefully a European assault next season. But if he doesn't want to be there, then like you say, just don't bother with a contract, let him go. Bring in Dawson, and we've got a couple of the under 23s that are ready to step forward. So let's do it that way.
Yeah. Okay, next on the list we've got Saeed Benrahma.
I think there was a statistic that was posted everywhere. I think it was yesterday, where our win ratio with him playing is so much better than without him. Without him, we played 11 and won 4, and with him, we played 12, and I believe we've won 8, which tells you everything you need to know, really.
I think it was 9.
9, yeah.
Because I think it was a 75% win ratio, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that is outstanding, really, and he's probably my favourite player to watch at the club. You always know you're going to get a lot of excitement when he's playing, and I think he's got huge potential. I think he's got near enough Mahrez level potential. Honestly, I think he's going to be a terrific player, and I saw him a lot last season as well, and he's just such a good player to watch. So I'd put him in the top column. For me, he's a long-term player.
Absolutely. I did a little bit of digging earlier on, had a bit of time on my hands. He's had 20 appearances in the Premier League, 10 starts, 10 from the bench. Do you happen to know what his average time in terms of minutes on the pitch has been over the course of those 20 appearances?
I'm going to guess 37 minutes.
It's a little bit more than that. It's 49.4 minutes on average, which I don't think he's enough that you can really judge a player on, quite frankly.
No, I don't either. I went that low because the amount of times I don't know if you remember, like the Liverpool game, last minute sub, Tottenham game, he only came on with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Who was it that we played recently? Sheffield, he came on with 10 minutes to go. So
yeah,
it is you can't enjoy that as a player, really.
no.
When you know deep down, I think Saeed deep down knows that when he plays that the West Ham are a better team, and I personally think he's a better player than Fornals. I wouldn't say he's better than Lingard, but than Fornals and Bowen, I'd certainly say right now he's a superior player.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. And you mentioned him. He's the next one on the list, Jared Bowen.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Bowen in the Championship and when he joined, but the last 12 more or less games he's been really poor. And I've got to put him in the not sure column because if he plays like he did when he first joined, then certainly he'd be in the long-term solution. But the way he's playing at the moment is Championship winger level, and he's not a Championship winger, but he's really got to return to what he was before sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. So, anything you wanted to add there, Duke?
No, I was just to say, I think you're the first person to put him there on the on anything but the long-term player. To be fair, but your reasons for doing so are valid. To be fair, he hasn't had the greatest of the last, like you say, dozen games haven't been fantastic. Whether that's a confidence thing. I mean, me and Gatesy have discussed in previous videos that. There's a possibility that he's got an underlying health issue. Not quite sure what it is. I don't think that's been released, but add confidence and that to the situation is obviously resulting in some shocking performances. And I don't say that lightly because, like you, mate, I really do rate him. I think he's a fantastic player. And again, he's much like Ben Rama. He has all the attributes in his game to go and play at the highest level. I think he has got. He's got a European future in playing. I just, like you say, I hope he turns it around sooner rather than later. Because if we get to a point where another dozen games or so where he's not performing to his capabilities, it could be a very short West Ham career for him.
Yeah. It would be sad to see because I remember the key thing that I remembered when he came in, even when he was missing chances at Liverpool and that chip that he tried on Alisson, the runs he was making and the positions he was getting himself in were something we hadn't seen from a West Ham player in a long time. And the last, I'd say this season, really, I've not seen him in too many good attacking positions. He's not really been there that much, which... when I watched him in the past, he was a completely different player in the way he played, and whether that's coming from the coaching team, I don't know.
Yeah, fair point.
Next one on the list, Vladimir Coufal.
I want to put him in the long term, but age is obviously a concern. Will he get worse as he gets older? He's already 28, 29 now. But I'm going to put him long term anyway, because I'd say he's got 3 seasons left in him at the top level. But he's certainly not as long term as a Ben Rama or other players we're going to get to later on in the list.
No, I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season. Was it 5.4 million from Slavia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the value that we're getting out of him so far this season has been fantastic. But yeah, Vladimir, he's top draw. I mean, I don't think that when we play a back 5 with wing backs, I don't think that does him any favours. I think he's a default right back rather than a wing back. But yeah, I think he's been absolutely top draw this season myself.
Yeah.
So moving on, we've got Aaron Cresswell.
I'd say he's got 1 or 2 more seasons. He's 31 now, and I think he's a real system player at the moment because, as I said yesterday on the podcast I filmed yesterday, last season I was calling him a Tranmere left back, and I can't go back on that too much. I do think he still has points in his game that I don't think he's an England quality left back, to be honest. I don't think I rate him as much as some other West Ham fans. I do appreciate what he does for us, and I think his delivery this season has arguably been the best in the league. But his defending at times is questionable. At Liverpool, he let Salah on his left foot far too easy for me. And yes, it's Mo Salah, but he's still shown this season at times he can be shaky defensively, and I don't know how long he'll be able to keep up this style of play for. So, with his age and everything taken into consideration, I would say he's probably got one season left at the top level.
Yeah, no, I think that's an entirely fair assessment. Craig Dawson's next. Not technically our player, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'll put him in the same category. I reckon he's got 2 seasons left. The beauty with having a great centre-back is age isn't too much of a worry when you're playing the way we do, because he's not got to play too much in the sense of playing out from the back. He's not got his game's not down to pace. It's about blocking shots, getting in the way, and I think he could do that for a couple more years. And like Ginger Pele, it will eventually get a bit too much for him, but I think he could certainly play to the age of 33 in this West Ham team. But as soon as we start to see signs of deterioration, especially on the ball, because he's not great on the ball as it is, he'd have to be replaced.
Yeah, no, I think that's an entirely fair assessment. Issa Diop's next on the hit list.
I'm going to put him in not sure as well. Funnily enough, I speak to Diop regularly, and I don't rate him that highly. The issue I have with
You ain't told him that.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't told him that. The issue I have with Diop is his positioning. I think his positioning is terrible at times. So many examples. Recently, he's done quite well, to be fair, at Spurs. And on his day, he is a monster. Like, on his day, he's just one of the better centre-backs in the league. But his day doesn't come around very often. So many examples I can find of poor positioning. Leeds, he stepped forward too much, leaving a huge gap for Bamford to run in on goal and put it wide. Rashford, in the last game, he left open for a free header at back post. Benteke at Palace, he left open for a free header in the middle and he scored. I mean, that's 3 big examples already, and he's only played he's not played that much this season in the league. So for me, the fact that we've conceded so much less this season with him out the team as well, tells you something.
Now, I know what's coming, don't I, Duke?
You do. You've probably, if you've watched the previous videos, mate, you know I've pretty much asked the next question to everyone. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It was what was the website? Hammer's News website. Put a little report out stating that the answer to David Moyes' is defensive midfielder, shall we say, lacking in players, was that they could use, or we could use even, Diop as a ongoing defensive midfielder. They cited his ability to carry the ball forward, although his positioning isn't great. His ability to carry the ball forward reminded them of the likes of Patrick Vieira, and actually stated that given some time, he would probably would make a better central defensive midfielder in the mould of Souček and Rice. I don't think that's a bad shout, personally. We all know that Moyes has a habit of being able to Moyesify players, as it was coined the other night, with the likes of Arnautovic going up front from being a winger. Same with Antonio, and obviously he was the one that moved Declan Rice from a central defender in a central defensive midfield. What's your take on it? Do you think Diop has that in his locker? For me, he's still young enough that he can retrain to a position in that kind of sense. Would you push that as an option during pre-season?
That is a really, really interesting shout. Now that I think about it, as you say, he's really good at carrying the ball, and his slide tackles are brilliant at times, aren't they? I think he could be a really, really good tackler. A player who I could liken him to if he goes to that position is maybe that of Ndidi, in the fact that Ndidi's passing range isn't that great. But if Diop can be anything like Ndidi is, because I don't think Diop on the ball would be. I'd be interested to see if he's adequate enough to play in the midfield on the ball, but that is a really, really interesting shout. I think it could be one that could be successful, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think he's, like I say, I completely agree with what you're saying. He's certainly he's what I consider a non-ball playing centre back. You know, he doesn't, in much the same sort of sense you mentioned earlier about Dawson. He hasn't got the greatest of passing ranges. He's kind of that old school, when in doubt, kind of, you know, he's from that kind of book of defenders. You know, he'd rather just put his foot through it rather than put the foot on the ball. A bit like, I liken putting the foot on the ball, Rio Ferdinand, you know, I've seen the videos and footage of Bobby Moore. Those sort of players are what you class as your ball playing centre back. And Diop doesn't fall into that category. He'd rather stick his boot through it and toss it further forward. Well, it makes me think if we bring him further forward into more of, you know, not so much. I won't say it's not a high pressure position, but you're not under that kind of immediate goal threat position in that role that, you know, like Rice and Souček play. I think it'd be a good shout to try and push him a bit further forward, and even like I say, just pre-season. I mean, he's not going to. Don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting him to walk in and push Rice and Souček, you know, out of the team. I'm not calling for that one just yet, unless he shows that he's got the quality in there. But I just think it'll be a pretty good shout going into pre-season. It's something might be worth looking at and might actually extend his West Ham career, to be fair, because at the moment he's probably maybe fourth choice centre back. You know, Alves coming in could be pushing him down even further. So I think, just at that, it might be worth him doing.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, next on the list we've got Lucas Fabianski.
For me, this is probably the easiest one. 1 or 2 more seasons for me. I'm a big fan of Fab. Last game, I thought he was the man of the match by far. He made 2 outstanding saves, and I believe he's really, really underrated by possibly even by our fan base, because I saw a lot of shouts on Twitter. You know, people preparing new goalkeepers, chucking them into the mix. Well, Fab's doing all right for now. You know, they say age is just a number, and Fab is a really, really good goalkeeper at just the age. He's 36, 37, but he's a fantastic keeper. And if he can keep it going, why not? You know, why not keep him in goal? Because it's not a high demand position in terms of energy levels or pressing forward or anything like that. I think he should be fine for 1 or 2 more seasons.
Do you think that if an opportunity comes up in the summer for us to sign his long-term successor, despite the fact he's signed a 1-year extension, do we take that opportunity?
In my opinion, no. I look at what our budget will be, and if it is around the room of 50, 60 million, then it would be ridiculous to spend the majority of that budget on a top quality keeper when we've got one who would be a similar level in the ranks, and we desperately need to strengthen in other positions such as striker, and possibly even in the fullback positions in terms of getting a long-term left back or maybe another centre back or something like that. That for me, there's just more positions that need strengthening than the goalkeeper right now.
Oh, fair enough, no problem. Pablo Fornals is next.
I don't know whether to put him in the long term or not sure, because he's a player at times I think he's quite good, but in the final third I think he's catastrophic. I think his finishing is awful, if I'm honest. but he is a tidy player, and yeah, I'll put him in not sure. If he carries on the way he's playing at the moment, he's certainly going to be long term, but he doesn't play like that all the time.
Yeah, I think his finishing's probably the one area that I would say is not his strongest suit. But I think personally, I mean, I know he's been utilised on the left more often than not, but I think he's probably best utilised as a number 10. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I really like the way we played against Leeds, because at times you'd see them popping up on the left, on the right, and by that I mean at times it would be Lingard on the left, as seen in the build up to the goal. At times it would be Ben Rama in the middle. At times it would be Fornells on the right, and they're just changing constantly, which is something I like to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of interchange between those three players for sure. Next on the list, we've got Ryan Fredericks.
I'll put him in 1 or 2 more seasons. I've been really impressed with him this season, and at the start of the season, I thought he did really well as well. Not quite Sofal level, but long may it continue.
Yeah, no problem. Next one is Ben Johnson.
If you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have put him long term, but I think his last 2 performances have been terrible, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
For me, at times, he just doesn't look calm enough, which is a strange one, because some games I'll see him, he'll look really calm and composed on the ball, like in the FA Cup against United. But then you'll see him against United in the league the other day, and he looked so out of his depth. So I'm wondering if, like Anderson, he's a confidence player, which is not something you want too much of, because you want strong mentalities in football nowadays. And so I'll put him in not sure.
Yeah, no, that was one thing I looked at, and I thought, is his confidence taking a bit of a bashing? I mean, he's a young player. I mean, for me, I think he's playing on the wrong side. I think he should be playing on the right as opposed to the left, because obviously he's a right footer. Square peg, round hole. But yeah, I'm just conscious of the fact that the more he's exposed on the left fullback side, and if he's not comfortable playing it, and his confidence is just going to take a bashing game after game. The Ben Johnson that we thought a season or two we might have on our hands, and the Ben Johnson that we end up with, could be two completely polar opposites apart.
Yeah, completely agree.
Okay, so we move on. Manuel Lanzini's next.
For me, he's in C. For me, he just doesn't offer enough once again in the final third. And if we want to be moving forward as a club, we've got to start replacing people like Lanzini. Before his injury, he was fantastic. He's just not the same player anymore. I thought he looked bright against United, but once again, when he entered the final third, it was like a chicken walking into a herd of wolves. It's just so out of place. And Lanzini, once again, I just don't know what's happened to him. The injury's clearly taken a huge effect on him, because he's gone from playing like Angel Di Maria to Golden Goal. It's just not good to see.
I haven't heard that one used. I've got to say, I like that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I've said it on many occasions, and Duke will bear me out on this one. He's half a second or half a yard behind where he used to be and where he needs to be.
Completely.
And the dividing line between success and failure in the Premier League is literally that fine, and he's the wrong side of it too often. He was a fantastic player before his injury, but he is where he is. If we could get the 15 million that I've heard reported from PSG, that Poch wants him sort of like over in Paris, if we can get 15 million for him, I'd take it all day long.
Well, if Poch brings him to PSG, I've got to start asking what drugs he's on, because he's levels behind that PSG side.
Yeah, no, listen, if they come in with it, I'm not going to argue, I've got to say. And, I'm trying not to be disrespectful to him, because he is obviously, he's done well for us over the years before the injury. But that injury has just absolutely just ruined him, in my opinion. But
sadly,
yeah, we move on. We've got one of our two Lone Rangers, Jesse Lingard.
Lingard's got to be in long term for me. If we sign him long term, that is. Fantastic. Arguably been our best player since he come in. In fact, I wouldn't even say it's arguably. He has been our best player since he came in. Yes, he's how old is he? 29 now.
28.
28. Yeah, he can definitely get 3 or 4 more
Yeah.
seasons out of a Lingard. Yeah,
and he's only
perfect,
played 266 appearances in his entire career, which I think for a 28-year-old is quite low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
I think
completely
he's
agree.
still got plenty in the tank to offer.
Yeah, he's probably not burned out as much. You'll see a player like a Wayne Rooney who played so many games, and by the age of 30, his legs were just completely gone. I think with Lingard, what you see with what you just mentioned, he's been a sub player far too often for United, which means he's not played as much 90 minutes, obviously, so he's not going to burn out as quickly. So hopefully we can get 3 or 4 good years out of Lingard.
Yeah, I agree. David Martin's next.
Sorry, Big Dave. I was a fan of the Chelsea game, but you've got to go. He's just got to go.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? He had his moment in the sun, but if we're being completely honest about it, is he even the number 3 goalkeeper at the club? I asked myself. Is he even now behind Nathan Trott? So it's I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is worrying.
Pretty much done for, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you could see he weren't good enough when he couldn't even play for Millwall. So when he came into the team, he done okay, but he still made a huge mistake at Southampton that I think I would have saved. So he's just clearly not good enough. I'm a big fan of him personality-wise, and he clearly loves the club, but he's just not a Premier League level goalie. I don't even think he's a Championship level goalie.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I mean, he's 35 years of age now. I mean, if he was to want to sort of continue his career at a League One club, maybe a lower reach Championship club, I think you'd be hard pressed to stand in his way. And I think we need to move on. Arthur Matsuak, who's next?
I'm going to put him in not sure again because I was really impressed with him when he played this season in the wing-back role. I thought he was fantastic. But left-back, I think he's defensively really poor. I wasn't a big fan of him at left-back at all. Defensively, he was like a rabbit in headlights at times. And you've got to question his age as well. I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but...
He's 27.
27, which it's his prime years. I thought it was actually 29, 30, which is poor from me. But if he can return to the form he was when he was playing this season, he can certainly go long term. But I don't think it will happen. And I don't think playing the 5 at the back is sustainable with Lingard as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Now, this is where we deviate slightly. We've gone alphabetically till this player, and now I'm going to change tack for reasons that will become apparent. Andrei Yamalenko's next.
Ironically, another one that I speak to, and ironically, another one that I don't rate. He's got to go.
Yeah, no, I think. Well, Duke, back me up here. Am I right in saying that everyone on the tier list so far has put this fella in here?
You are indeed, and I think the common theory, the common belief of everyone is he's actually going to be quite hard to move on. The rumours are he's on higher wages, and certainly the sorts of clubs that he'd find himself playing for now. I don't think those sort of wages are sustainable for a club like that, So I'm not quite sure how we're going to go about, letting him go. It may well be that we have to agree to pay off maybe a year of his contract and then let him go, free transfer wherever he wants to leave, mutual consent, etc., etc. But yeah, everyone's actually, poor sod, to be fair, has actually dumped on him and turfed him out the door.
Yeah, well, I don't think, I think we've done 10 or so of these tier list
Believe
episodes,
so.
and everyone's put this fella in the bin. I think there's a reason behind it. We can't all be wrong, can we? So
No, I
we
don't
move
think so.
on. Thomas Souček, the potato salad king.
He's a long-term player. He's only 25, possibly even 20, 25, 26. But the point is, he's in his prime years, and he's a fantastic player. Still relatively young, as I've said, and he can run for days. You could probably ask him to run through the whole of England, and he'd do it. He's a warrior. Not technically the best, and I was speaking to Lee Judges yesterday from AFTV, and he said that as well, because we were saying who's better out of him and Partey, and I do think overall it's probably Partey, because of Souček. Technically, I don't think he'd be able to play for a Liverpool or a well, actually Liverpool are useless at the moment, so maybe he would. I don't think he'd be able to play for a Man City or a Chelsea or a team like that who demand a lot of possession. But for our side, he's perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean, 11 goals from a deep lying midfielder in just about a calendar year. I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal for us. So, what was it, 19 million from Slavia Prague, I think?
Yeah, 18, 19 million.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just fantastic value he's brought to West Ham. Long may it continue. The next one on the hit list is Xande Silva.
Another one who's got to go. Another one who it's sort of a shame, because at the time his record in the under-23s was pretty good, but the problem was he was 23 when he was doing that. 22, 23. He's clearly not good enough. His record in Portugal is okay. It's not too good. It's definitely not going to be capable of playing in the Premier League. He's just not good enough. There's no way of putting it. The man is just not good enough for the Premier League. He's an under-23s player. Possibly could do it in the Championship.
Wow. I mean, he's on loan at the moment in Greece at Aris Thessaloniki.
Oh, I thought he was in Portugal for some reason.
No, he's in Greece at the minute. And I looked, and I mean, he's with the greatest of respect. If anyone's watching this that's a big fan of the Greek league, I apologise, but this is just my opinion. The Greek league's not the strongest in Europe. He's had 25 appearances and 3 goals. That's not exactly someone that's tearing it up in what I would consider to be an average strength league.
Yeah, when I went to Greece, actually, I saw the Greek league, and it was terrible, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough.
Fair
And I
enough.
think three goals in 25 games as a striker in a terrible league. I think if you think you're going to survive as a Premier League player, you can forget it. Not happening. The next one on the list, Declan Rice.
Long term, the only issue is would he want to be long term? But for me, yeah, obviously, if we have the option, I think he's our best player. I think he's the second best holding midfielder in the league behind Fabinho, in my opinion. But I think he's a terrific player, and I think he should be starting for England in the Euros, and I think he will be, because Southgate seems like a really big fan of him. And speaking of England, actually, I just want to make a point quickly off Rice. It'll be interesting to see how many of our players are in the England squad when it comes out tomorrow, because I think there could be 2 or 3.
I take it you're referring to, obviously, other than Rice, Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, it's come out today, hasn't it, that Lingard, and basically it's looking like he'll be in the squad. And then I doubt Cresswell or Dawson will be in the squad, but you just never know, do you?
No, it'd be nice, but I think if we had 2, I know technically Jesse Lingard's not our player, but he's got in. If he gets in the England squad, it'll be off the back of his performances in our shirt. So we'll take that.
Yeah, I think
There's
it
a
will
lot
do.
of sorry, go on.
No, you can go, and I'll just say it
I was
after.
to say there's a lot of clamour actually for and it's not just from West Ham fans, I've noticed, for Aaron Cresswell to get the nod ahead of Chilwell at Chelsea.
Ben
There
Chilwell,
was a
yeah.
lot. I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter today There was a lot of polls and stuff like that for positions, and from what I saw, Cresswell was getting a hell of a lot of support and votes ahead of Chilwell for the England squad.
The thing that I look at though is that Southgate has a big thing for team morale and maintaining organisation, as a lot of national managers do. And the fact that Chilwell is used to the England lads and possibly has a longer term future than Chilwell than Cresswell in terms of age, I think he'll get the nod ahead of him, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah,
fair enough. We're down to 4 players. Winston Reid's next.
Hopefully he goes to Brentford and we get Tony, and obviously we'll have to pay as well, but hopefully he goes to Brentford in that deal, because he's not going to be a Premier League level anymore, in my opinion. Was an awesome defender, wasn't he, in 2014-15 especially, and 2013-14, sorry, under Sam Allardyce. But then he got that horrible injury, and since then he's just clearly not been at the level, because he couldn't even get in the squad, and he was playing with the under-23s and didn't look all that in pre-season, and he's just clearly not Prem level at the moment.
Yeah, so he's going in the senior pile then.
Yep.
In he goes. Darren Randolph's next.
We'll give him 1 or 2 more seasons. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I don't think he's an excellent goalkeeper. I think he is a Premier League level goalkeeper. The issue is his injuries, because you can't afford to have a keeper who can't kick it at all in a game. You just can't have that. It comes down to the fact of him rushing out his box. He'll be reluctant as well, and things like that. I think against Man City he was terrible, if I'm honest. I thought both goals, if I'm being brutally harsh, he could have done a little bit better. The one I'm looking at in particular is the second goal. It literally went straight down the middle, and his positioning was just really poor. But I do think he could possibly do it for another season.
I actually think I'm going to counter this. I thought with both goals that he could have done better, but when I looked at the second goal closer, what I realised is that the ball's it's travelled through, and he had Craig Dawson in his line of sight, so I don't think he saw the ball until quite late. But certainly with the first goal, I looked at it and I just was of the opinion that if Fabianski was in goal, he may have come out and claimed the ball before it got to the head of, was it Diaz that scored the goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I did look and think, well, either Fabianski would have come out and claimed it or punched it clear before it got to its target. Either that, or he would have just done better with the actual header.
Yeah. He's just not Fabianski level, but he's a decent keeper.
Yeah, fair enough. We're down to the last 2, ladies and gentlemen. Next one's Angelo Ogbonner.
I'll give him 1 or 2 more seasons as well, just because he's 30, 34, I think. He's an old player, but probably been one of our best performers over the last 2 years. Before that, I was calling him. I basically thought he was terrible. I was calling him the Italian Titus Bramble. We saw in the Wimbledon game he was horrendous, and a couple of years ago people were calling him to be sold for a couple Freddos, but he's really responded from that, and I wouldn't sell him at any price now. He's just a fantastic defender, and he seems to have ironed out the mistakes in his game, which I hope happens to Diop, because he could learn a lot from Ogbonner.
A couple of Freddos.
Well, I'll tell you what, the way they've gone up in price, that's going to be quite expensive. I don't think there's many clubs that can afford that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the last player on the list. You can see who it is. Now, he signed a new deal last week that will take him to his 18th at the club, and he said this will be his last. Canning Town's finest. He has 521 club appearances for the Hammers and 60 goals. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. West Ham himself, Mark Noble.
Well, he's said that he's got 1 year left, so I'm going to put him in the 1 or 2 more seasons column. In my opinion, he can't start in the Premier League anymore, and the record when he starts proves that. But he's been a fantastic captain for us, and I think in these cup games, like we saw at Doncaster, for example, he's a fantastic player to have because his passing is still top notch. He's never going to lose that until he's in a wheelchair. So he is a really good player, and he's just not Premier League level in terms of pace and mobility anymore, which is a shame, but it happens to all players, and hopefully he gets rewarded for his time with either a name in the stand or a position in the coaching staff. And he's already had a testimonial, but, give him a knighthood, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, I mean, how many, Rob, you'll probably know this because I know you love your stats and everything else.
Go on.
Am I right in thinking that there's only 2 players at the club that have been at the club that have had 2 testimonials?
Yep.
So Mark Noble would be the third if we granted him a second testimonial. There has only been 2, hasn't there?
I think it was Billy Bonds and Alvin Martin, I do believe.
I believe so, yeah. So, I mean, listen, I think he does warrant something. I mean, I did do a video, asking the question, should we retire the 16 or should we name the stand? And I fell on the side of naming the stand just because it keeps it relevant for a younger generation of fans that know who he is. With regards to why the stand's named after him. I know Rob would like to see the last stand go to Lampard Senior, but as I stated in my video, I just think that in 10 years' time, there's going to be very few fans. Maybe 20 years' time, there's going to be very few fans going to the ground that would know the names of the 4, like who the 4 stands are named after, with Brooklyn Bonds, Bobby Moore and Frank Lampard Senior. So I think it kind of keeps it relevant for the younger generation, and for fans that are still going in 20 or 30, 40 years, they're going to know who Mark Noble was because more than likely they would have seen him at some point in their lifetime. So I just think, he, like you say, he deserves something. I think he's been a fantastic ambassador of the game, let alone just at West Ham. I know he's got a lot of his detractors, and I have to say, when I did the video for the shirt or the stand, there was it received a lot of negative comments across social media, stating asking the question, what's he actually done for the club? He's been there because at best he was a mediocre player in a mediocre side that he didn't get the big move to one of the big teams, which I think just doesn't do the fella justice. I think he deserves a hell of a lot more respect from our fans than that. But I'd like to see him in a technical director role. I know there was a lot of clamour for him to be on the coaching role or even a managerial role going forward. But I think he'd be fantastic in a ambassador role, or like I say, director of football. Just because I think he's developed some good relationships in the footballing world with other clubs. Other clubs do. They kind of value Mark Noble and his honesty, his integrity and such. So, putting him as a director of football or, that kind of technical director role would actually benefit us because of his reputation. So, who knows? Let's see where it takes us. I'd love, don't get me wrong, I'd love one day to be singing Mark Noble's Claret and Blue Army as he's sitting in the dugout as a manager. But listen, let's wait and see where it takes us. I think he's been brilliant. I love the guy.
Yeah, it is strange the fact that some fans seem to dislike Mark Noble, isn't it? I was speaking to some plonker on Twitter the other day who was saying the day I lost respect for Mark Noble was when he tackled the fan on the pitch. See,
should never have been there. It's as simple as. Listen, and I don't want to alienate people, and I know everyone expresses their feelings in different ways. But you know what? In the whole harsh reality of it all is, the guys that ran onto the pitch, and I do believe It was Bubbles, wasn't it? It was the guy standing in the centre circle with a flag. It shouldn't have really been there, and I don't disagree with what they were feeling, and I fully understand the passion and everything that was behind it. But grand scheme of things, shouldn't have been there. I'm sorry, and if you get manhandled or tackled, no different to I think it was in the Italian league or in the German league, a fan ran onto the pitch and got up in the goalkeeper's face, and the goalkeeper just literally 1-2'd him and laid him out there and then knocked the geezer unconscious. The goalkeeper got a red card. Well, I don't mean to be disrespectful. The fella shouldn't have been there up in his face. If that's me, I feel like I'm being threatened. He's lucky he only got 2 punches to the face, So if the guy wasn't there, Noble wouldn't have had to have manhandled him and dragged him away. So, we enjoyed it when he did it. Was it Matic or whoever it was? In the Man U shirt.
Herrera.
Mata when he picks him
Herrera,
up.
sorry, yeah.
Pereira, yeah, he picks him up, carries him off the pitch. We quite enjoyed it when he did that. It's no different to him, with a fan that shouldn't have been on the pitch. So, yeah, sorry, carry on. I kind of overtook your statement there.
Yeah, it's just when the GSB out gets too much, in my opinion. We're all GSB out, but that it just makes a mockery of the club when you're running on, putting flags in the middle of the pitch. Get back in the stand. That's where you deserve to be, not out on the pitch.
Yeah.
So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That is West Ham Online's tier list. So let's just put it full screen and go through it. So long-term players, 3+ seasons. We've got Ben Rama, Soufal, Lingard, Soucek and Rice. 1 or 2 seasons, we've got Antonio, Cresswell, Dawson, Fabianski, Fredericks, Randolph, Ogbonner and Noble. The not sure category, we have Bowen, Diop, Fornals, Johnson, Matsuak. Sia, we have Anderson, Valbuena, Lanzini, Martin, Yamalenko, Silva, and Winston Reed. So that's pretty much the end of that one, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much indeed for joining us, West Ham Online. And would you like to give your work a little bit of a plug?
Yeah, thank you for that. I do. I own West Ham Online on Instagram, which is approaching 30,000 followers now. I do Twitter as well, but it's not as I just do that for a bit of a laugh, not as serious as the Instagram, but you can follow it if you want. West Ham Online 5. I also started a podcast which is on Spotify, on Anchor, and all platforms. It's called The Who Podcast, and this Friday we've got AFTV on the podcast, so please check that one out. Give it a view and share to your friends if you will. But thank you for having me on.
No, we appreciate you making time in your day to join us on the tier list series. And just before we finish off, going to do my usual shout out, ladies and gentlemen. Isla Caton, Isla's Army. As I say, if you didn't catch this at the beginning, hopefully you'll catch this one. So this is a young girl, 6 years of age, Isla Caton. She is suffering with a really rare and aggressive form of cancer that tends to afflict children in the main, called neuroblastoma. There's no treatment for this in the NHS in this country. Means her family have got to put their entire lives on hold, cart this poor little girl to wherever they've got to try and save her life, as well as having all of the bills that they would have in the UK, their rent, their mortgage, electricity bills, whatever. They've then got to pay for their accommodation wherever it is they've got to go around the world to save this little girl's life, their accommodation, their food, all the rest of it, as well as the treatment itself. So this is really stressful time for them, very, very expensive, and in the middle of a global pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, this is hell on earth. I can't stress that enough. You've got a PayPal there, you've got a Just Giving there, and I would ask that if there's anything at all that you can put in the tin, from £1 right the way up, whatever the amount is that you can spare, it will be accepted with a great deal of thanks and gratitude from the family. If you can't, and we've all had a tough year of it these last 12 months or so, people have lost jobs, so I completely understand if there's literally nothing in the cupboard that you can put in there to contribute to this little girl's fight. Then I thank you very much, and all I would ask you is that you just share this far and wide to all your contacts, because it might be that one of them maybe is able to donate into the pot. Share it far and wide, get it out there, keep the momentum going. Time is of the essence, ladies and gentlemen. Every day that goes by, this poor little girl is in an even worse state than the day before. She needs the treatment and she needs it like right now. It's as simple as that. I thank you very much indeed for your attention. So that's another episode of the tier list that we've just finished off, ladies and gentlemen. We've had West Ham Online, who's very kindly come along to make a contribution to Forged from Iron. I am Gatesy. That one there is Duke. We're going to sign off now. Obviously, you've got the comment section below. Pick the bones out of that. Let us know what you think. And you can follow us at Twitter at Forged Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Forged from Irons. And obviously also subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon and you'll be notified of any new content as and when we upload it. Thanks very much for listening. Stay safe. Come on, you Irons.